about 50% of the target. Yeah. IEBC now says the 4 million, the target from the whole thing, the way they're saying it, from a target at 6.1 million, they might only manage to get 2.1 million, which means that 4 million targeted voters will simply not be on that list.
4 million will not be on the list, but what is of concern are issues that have been raised. The next 7 days, of course, will not be able to reach that 4 million. But concerns have already been made concerning the double registration, and therefore what already is with IEBC really needs to be sanitized. They already said that out of the, was it 500,000, 150? A substantial amount had been identified, because when the data is coming out from the fields and coming to the central processing unit, then the red flag is showing and there's the beep, and then they're able to capture the double registrations. I'm sure the first thing that IEBC is supposed to do is contract the audit firm that was supposed to have cleaned the voter register, and I'm sure there will be a substantial drop in the people who are actually eligible to vote.
For example, as at yesterday, 78,000, IEBC says 78,000 registered voters risk being struck off the voters list because those are cases of double registration, one particular ID number having been used to register multiple times.
I'm sure.
Well, the IEBC by yesterday had given 9 days, it was 10 days by Monday, to go and check and verify if you're one of those, if you're among the 78,000 who've been affected by the multiple registrations. And that is something people don't know, that you need to go and check. If at all you're among those affected by these issues of multiple registration, because you will not be allowed to vote, you will no longer be on the voters list by next week if at all you do not rectify that anomaly. 78,000 individuals could be struck off the voters list. That's a huge number.
It is a huge number. When we take a look at the voter registration exercise that has been ongoing, there have been a few issues. One, those who are going to get their IDs, and while we have seen some sort of improvement because of probably better coordination and involvement by most of the key stakeholders to ensure that any of the issues that are being faced, whether it's the lack of film, etc., those who are not able to access the centers, go in and get their ID cards. There are those who traditionally may have had the older version of the identification cards that are being replaced now. This exercise should be ongoing. 4 million voters is a lot of people who are not registered as voters. When you talk about cleanup of the voter registry, IEBC did mention that of the 150 something, there was a significant amount of them that was just probably mischief. 70, probably half of it, because it was 78,000 that
and
now
so
need.
The mischief brings in the credibility of the entire vote.
Right, but the mischief was in the reporting, not necessarily that was actually the case of 150. When they actually did go in, it is about 78,000 of them. Considering how large a number of the voter registration cleanup that is supposed to be going on, and which I'm sure will take place when you're dealing with a population of over 40 million. Timelines for sure. I mean, probably what the question everybody would want to know is, can we extend this? But you know,
I'm sure the politicians are going to be talking about let's have the election in December.
Typical Kenyan behavior. You wait for the last minute. And this is the last 6 days.
This is the last 6 days.
And
I'm sure we're going to see the numbers increase significantly, and a lot of complaints
queues
that
will
people
get longer,
unable to register when they're supposed to register, that we just got our IDs, we want to be able to register. It was taking longer than the 3 days for the IDs to reach. But
so you're optimistic we'll see more numbers this week?
I'm optimistic that we will see more numbers this week. The key issue is what we see here. We see that those that the analysis is not as good as who's.
What they've done here is break the numbers down to regions, and it's also a very interesting thing to look at. Rift
Valley is leading in voter registration.
Yes.
Followed by Eastern, then Central, 242.
In terms of numbers,
Nairobi,
but in terms of percentages, it's only Northeastern that has gone. Northeastern has done more than 80%. 80.57%. Northeastern has the highest number of achievement out of a targeted 78,000.
So what happened in Northeastern that brought about that?
Look at their numbers, really. 78,000, 63,000. But now,
so were they able to follow them around?
Well, it could be because also of the issue of relief for food distribution because of the drought. It's easier to make them converge at one place.
So there was an incentive.
Yes, of course.
And so are youth looking for an incentive to then register? Do they know why they need to register? Do they see the benefits of voting?
They still
and these
don't.
are issues that really need to be addressed. Yeah,
but then again,
and the voter education.
Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers again, because this has been of concern. I remember last week, Cynthia, you were here and I asked you the same thing. The issue of concern is that particular areas seem to be performing very poorly. Western, Nyanza, Western Kenya, 35% achievement out of a possible more than half a million potential voters targeted by the IEBC, only 185,000 from Western Kenya. And Nyanza, out of close to 600,000, they only got 248,000 so far. That's 41%. Nairobi is also facing a similar problem. Apathetical potential voters. They just don't feel like they can do this. While at the same time, you look at Central and Rift Valley, considered to be Jubilee strongholds. They're achieving 66%, 58% respectively. Those numbers should be worrying the opposition, definitely.
Very worrying. And one thing that we once again go back to is, why aren't the young people registering? They don't see the need to. They don't see the benefits. Can government work for me? If I then go and register as a voter and I vote in the person that I want, will government be able to address some of the issues, unemployment especially? And we saw yesterday the president, of course, launch a very good initiative of
the Polytechnic one?
Giajiri to Giajiri to Giajiri. And I mean, let's employ each other. And I mean, these are good initiatives. But the young person, especially in the CORD areas, they really want to see that devolution is working. We saw the governors at the beginning of devolution.
Young people in some areas feel more advantaged than others.
I would say that, because in Kiambu County, let me just tell you, I actually Ubered with a young person who's a driver from Kiambu County, and he says the county government of Kiambu has worked, and that the revolving fund for youth to start businesses is really working for them. And so I would say that youth in Kiambu County are really pleased with, are happier. And so maybe that is also probably replicated in Jubilee areas where they are feeling the rewards of the leadership.
Right.
I would say to a certain extent.
Really, to a certain extent.
Whereas in other NASA areas, you saw the governors coming out and saying Pesa Mashinani when there was the Okoa Kenya initiative. They're not feeling the fruits of the... Of course, to a certain extent, it has
Kiambu received more funds than Homa Bay, for example.
No, I mean, we've received less funds than Northeastern. The key issue is management, the type of leaders that you elect, the type of leadership that they put in. You know,
when more leadership coming in from Jubilee strongholds, when parastatal government appointments come in, you're finding that they're coming from Jubilee areas, and therefore it does have ripple effects, and it does affect families, it does affect communities when you do have appointments into these government places that are coming only from one region, and therefore you find that the communities in those areas are the beneficiaries of such appointments, and therefore you would find that they know what leadership is, they know what governance is, they would want to protect that governance, and therefore they are motivated to go out and register as voters.
That's a very interesting perspective, but really when you take a look at our stronghold areas or the Jubilee areas, it has nothing whatsoever to do with parastatal appointments. In fact, if you were to ask people from Central, they would say that they have really not benefited in terms of appointments currently. However, the issue of governance, the issue of treating public property as something that should be managed well, which brings in the issue of when it comes to the issue of corruption within the CORD stronghold areas, the principal is completely silent on those issues. All these are people who are told per week, let a millionitano.
We have leadership.
No, that's
can you substantiate those claims really? Because when you say that, it means that you do have some evidence.
You know the truth. No, it's not unfair. It's not unfair. It is not unfair because when you interact with these, but it's a fact.
It's a fact.
Yes,
really.
We have talked to several people who come from those areas, and they say, you know, on a weekly basis, we must deliver a certain amount for Baba. When he's going to Mombasa, it was even in the papers. Come on, it was documented there that is what happened. And right, I didn't interrupt you when you were talking. So now let me finish what I'm saying, because these are part of the issues, and if we're honest and real with ourselves, we will deal with those particular issues. When it comes to the Jubilee stronghold areas, people demand service. They will hold demonstrations. That's not something that will happen. When we have our party primaries, and that is the competition is strong, it's fierce, the criticism is there. And in terms of service, you must deliver. People don't care. They want services. When you go to the Quad stronghold areas, let's take a look at people who are trying to do development within the areas. You bring in whatever toilets that were built in Kibera. We look at the kind of work Kenokoth is doing in Kibra. My hero, because of the projects that he has started within his area. However, because they are not approved by certain persons, then it doesn't become an issue that can be felt. But it's important that if as a nation that we start recognizing that it is our right to get the services that are supposed to be there. The same money that comes to Kiambu goes to all of the other areas in terms of revenue collection. Why haven't they done the hospitals the way they've done them in Kiambu?
And that informs the apathy in terms of registering voters.
Because why is it that these areas are able to do the delivery that is supposed to be there? Why? You follow and you provide leadership. Getting into office, public offices is not about fleecing the citizens of your area. It is about providing service. And this is why you find the youth are completely apathetic with what is going on. When we had the youth that were working in the NYS projects, everybody was happy throughout the country. Why? When the young people have money within their pockets, they're able to start their own businesses. They were able to ensure that certain things were going on within their area.
And back payments, I do know. And I'm still waiting for some of their payments.
And I'm sure that
they
will
were
happen.
happy they were working, but then the monies were not commensurate.
Are we saying that these are the issues affecting the voter numbers? Is it only young people who are not registering as voters, or is it across the board that people are just not interested in this?
I would say it's lethargy, and especially in the Quad areas, not seeing the fruits, because young people want quick rewards. And once again, I'm saying they are getting quick rewards in Jubilee strongholds. Of course, the Member of Parliament here does disagree with me.
Of course, because when you take a look at when we rank in terms of fund usage within the whole country, it's about providing services. It's about how do we empower our people. If they would do that within, I mean,
and that's
Western is so fertile, honestly, that if they took in the projects there that were supposed to be done, and it has nothing to do with that people are appointed at a parastatal level. Of course not. If you, Governor Karanya was in
public office so that they do not fleece public coffers. But it is irresponsible to say that the principal demands that you give him a certain cut from the devolved funds. That is a reason.
I still don't get a reason why we're getting these numbers. 35%
they need to be motivated.
Kenya,
they need to be whipped up.
Nyanza,
they will come out.
41% Nairobi, 48% in Coast, 52% Eastern, Rift Valley 58%, Central 66%, and Northeastern 80%. That is as far as the third week of the voter registration exercise goes. Let's now take another break. When we return, we'll discuss the narcotics issue, the fight against the drug trade here in Kenya, as well as this demand by members of Parliament